last thing I remembered of my first life was blood. Not mine. At least not at first. But Amanda's, spattered across the nurse's station as she knelt and pointed a shaking finger at me. "It was Naomi's shift," she cried. "She did the IV. It has nothing to do with me." I tried to speak, but the family's grief had already turned to fury. Fists flew before I could defend myself. Their screams echoed through the sterile corridors. "You poisoned my grandson! Murderer!" I begged them to listen. It was just glucose. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. But then Chris, the man I once called my brother, appeared. Relief surged in me for one fragile heartbeat. Then he shoved me to the ground. "Your fingerprints are all over the IV bag," he said coldly. "You're a murderer." Liam came next, my childhood best friend, the golden boy of forensic medicine. He didn't even look at me when he shoved the autopsy report into my hands. "Time of death, around 5 a.m. That's when you were in the room. Naomi, it was you." I had no defense left, no voice, no hope. The family dragged me outside and beat me until my breath tore from my body. Chris and Liam watched, their faces unreadable masks. The world went dark, but death wasn't the end. I woke up gasping, clutching my chest as if I could still feel the blows. The hospital corridor was silent, the night shift steady and dim, as though time had rewound. My body was whole. My uniform is unstained. My ID badge is still pinned neatly over my heart. For a moment I thought I had dreamed it all. The accusations, the betrayal, the pain. Then I saw the clock on the wall. 12:15 a.m. The night Cody would die, the night Amanda would trap me. I pressed a hand to my mouth. I have been here before. I've lived this before. And I had died. I've been reborn. My pulse hammered as the truth settled in. I had another chance. Another life. And this time, Amanda would not make me her scapegoat. The night wore on, the hospital heavy with silence and shadows. At the nurse's station, Amanda appeared, her hand on her stomach, feigning weakness. "Naomi," she said, voice pitched low and desperate. "Please, can you cover for me? Just a quick drip for Cody in 6002. Her tone was familiar, almost word for word the same plea from before. I remembered what would follow: the dead child, the autopsy, Chris's slap, Liam's cold eyes, my own death. This time I smiled bitterly. "No." Amanda blinked, stunned. "What do you mean, no?" "He's just a kid. Glucose for energy. It'll take 2 minutes. Don't be so difficult." I leaned on the counter, arms crossed. "Last time I helped you, I nearly lost everything. If Cody needs anything, you do it yourself, or ask someone else." Her lips thinned, anger sparking. "You!" But she was cut off by the ringing of her phone. I didn't need to hear the voice on the other end to know it was Chris. Last time, he had joined the chorus, urging me to help for Amanda's sake. This time I walked away. By dawn, the storm hit again. Cody's grandmother screamed. His parents stormed the nurse's station, and Amanda was cornered under their fists. In my last life, she had turned their fury on me. But this time, when she pointed her bloody finger, I raised my hand first. "Don't you dare," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. "I didn't hang any IVs. Every nurse here knows it. Amanda gave the drip herself." A murmur rippled through the staff. One by one, they nodded. "It's true. She asked Naomi, but Naomi refused. Amanda gave the IV." Amanda's eyes widened. She hadn't expected resistance. "No, she's lying. Naomi did it. She said yes." I shook my head, calm now. "Check the cameras if you want. You'll see I never stepped into that room." Amanda's smile twisted. "The cameras are down tonight." Of course they were. Just like last time. I could almost feel fate's cold hand brushing my shoulder. Cody's father jabbed a finger toward me, voice low and cutting. "So where were you when he died? Who will I make pay for taking my son?" The air shifted when someone shouted, "Police!" My stomach dropped as Chris pushed through the crowd. His gaze swept over Amanda, broken on the floor, then snapped to me. Behind him, a line of security guards and police officers fanned out, tense and ready. His face was painted in shock. "Why did you get hit?" he asked her softly. "Chris!" Amanda clutched her chest, tears spilling down like a broken dam, her voice rising in a pitiful wail. "I didn't do it. I loved that boy. Naomi was the one who touched his IV, not me. Please believe me, get revenge for Cody. Don't let her walk free." I saw the act for what it was now, a trap. But Chris turned to me anyway, his eyes cold, his palm striking across my cheek. "Naomi," he said, voice flat, "you did this. Take responsibility." "No," I whispered, my jaw stinging. "Not this time." He ignored me, turning to Cody's parents with a deep bow. "I'm sorry. I'll put her in prison for this." The betrayal burned sharper than the slap. He called me sister, then offered me up like a lamb to slaughter. Amanda's voice rose behind him, triumphant. "See? It was Naomi. It's always been Naomi." But before the family could descend, Cody's mother lifted her hand. "Enough. Let the police test the evidence. The fingerprints will tell us the truth." My breath caught. Last time, I had trusted this too. I remembered the cruel moment when Chris handed Liam the report, and Liam's sad eyes told me my fate. The fingerprints were mine. But I had never touched that IV bag. Not then, not now. If Chris planted them once, he could do it again. And yet, I lifted my chin. "Yes," I said. "Check the fingerprints. Check the time of death. Cody deserves the truth." Amanda's smirk faltered. Liam adjusted his glasses, expression unreadable. "Fine. I'll do the autopsy," he said. In my first life, that was my death sentence. The moment Liam took control, everything turned against me. But in this second one, I had knowledge they couldn't begin to guess. Cody had already been cold when I checked him. His lips were blue, his body stiff. Rigor mortis had set in before dawn. His time of death wasn't 5 a.m. at all. This time I would not be silent. This time I would not bow my head. This time I was reborn, and I would uncover the truth, even if it meant burning every tie I had left. The shouting didn't stop. The family's rage was a living thing, circling me, pressing closer, their grief demanding someone to bleed for Cody. And everyone already knew Amanda wanted me dead. Chris and Liam didn't hesitate. They grabbed my arms and shoved me forward, pushing me into the center of the storm like I was some kind of shield. A group of men surged toward me, their expressions twisted with fury, fists clenched as if ready to crush me on the spot. My chest tightened, panic clawing at my throat. No, not again. Not this life. Desperately, I pulled out my phone and shouted, my voice cracking but loud enough to slice through the chaos. "Amanda killed Cody. She's the reason for all of this." The entire room froze. All eyes snapped toward me, silence thundering louder than the screams had. Even Amanda's smirk faltered. And then, from the back of the room, a calm, steady voice cut through. "Actually, we have proof." Gasps rippled through the crowd. It was Mr. Evans, the lawyer I had quietly hired the moment I sensed history trying to repeat itself. He stepped forward, holding a folder thick with reports, his presence like a wall between me and the mob. "Naomi here requested a second autopsy," he said firmly. "It seems the truth is finally ready to be revealed." Chris and Liam stiffened. Their eyes darted nervously toward the documents, the confidence bleeding out of them. I allowed myself the smallest smirk. "I asked Mr. Evans to find another medical professional," I said. That way, Liam couldn't tamper with the evidence again. Mr. Evans opened the report with deliberate care. The victim, Cody, died at 2 a.m. That completely contradicts the original report, which means someone, his gaze landed squarely on Liam, changed the records. Liam's face drained of color. He stammered, You, what makes you think I would do that? I'm a professional." Mr. Evans raised an eyebrow. "Professional? Would you care to challenge my expert witness? The man who signed this report also happens to be your former mentor, the one who taught you everything you know." The room buzzed with shock. Liam's lips trembled, but no words came out. Chris immediately stepped in, pulling Amanda protectively behind him. "It's not Amanda. She's always worked so hard. Naomi just wants to frame her." I nearly laughed at how easily he lied. Funny, because of all the mistakes Amanda made at work, I was the one who fixed them. Every single time. Liam, regaining some composure, added, "It was probably Naomi. She's trying to push the blame on Amanda." I folded my arms. "So you admit you lied in the report?" It was a mistake," Liam sputtered. "Mistakes happen." Chris's eyes lit up like he suddenly remembered something. "Right, the fingerprints. Naomi's prints were all over the evidence. No one else touched it. That means she's guilty." He hurried to bring the fingerprints forward, showing them to everyone. Cody's father's face turned red with fury. "You filthy liar! You killed my son! Do you have anything to say for yourself?" But as I stared at the photo, something felt off. Then it hit me. "Wait," I said firmly, pointing at the image. "Look at my finger. Amanda cut me before. There should be a chunk missing. But in this photo, my fingerprint is flawless. It was forged." The crowd gasped. Chris froze, checking the photo over and over again. He had no explanation. Even the doctors nodded when I reminded them about the cut Amanda had given me. That injury saved my life. It became undeniable evidence. Amanda's mask finally slipped. She trembled as Cody's mother stepped forward, her voice sharp and cold. "My son died at 2 a.m. Liam changed the report. Naomi didn't touch the evidence. Naomi cut her finger, yet the prints were perfect. All of this points to one person, Amanda. That trash killed Cody." The family erupted in rage. They dragged Amanda forward, beating her until her face was swollen and bloodied. Chris and Liam tried to intervene, but they were overpowered and thrown aside. I watched in silence as Amanda screamed, her cries echoing in my ears. For once, she was tasting the consequences of her own cruelty. As Amanda lay bruised and swollen on the floor, Cody's mother's voice cut through the chaos, trembling with both grief and fury. "You took my son from me," she said, pointing at Amanda. "You don't just walk away from this. You owe us everything he'll never have, the life we gave him, the future he was supposed to live." Her husband's voice cracked, raw with pain. "Cody was going to be a doctor. Do you know how hard he worked for that dream? How many nights he stayed up studying while we worried over him? We gave him everything we could, our time, our strength, our love, and now he's gone. And we'll never see him walk across that stage, never see him heal anyone, never see the life he should have had. You destroyed all of it. You destroyed us." The mother's eyes filled with tears, her voice trembling with fury. "Do you have any idea what we lost? All the years we raised Cody, all the dreams we held for him, gone. Nothing can bring him back. But you will pay for what you did. If it takes every last coin you have, so be it. And if the law doesn't deliver justice, we'll see to it you rot in jail." Amanda whimpered, her swollen lips trembling. I didn't do it. I swear, I didn't do anything wrong." But no one listened. The cuffs left red marks on Amanda's wrists. She lay on the bench, trembling, and I stood over her like something colder than pity. "So, you admit it wasn't a mistake," I said, voice low. "It was planned." Amanda's eyes went wide, then frantic. What? No. You're lying. You set me up because Chris likes me. You're jealous." She tried for outrage, for wounded innocence, but the edges of her panic looked rehearsed. Her pleading was all performance. Beneath the tears, I saw the same small, sharp animal she'd always been, the woman who knew how to place blame and walk away. If she'd plotted Cody's death, if she'd chosen that IV with intent, she could be facing something far worse than our station's gossip. The thought settled in my chest like ice. Word spread fast. The hospital put Amanda into formal custody and put Chris and Liam on leave. Their public reputations were bruised. Privately, they were rattled. But the damage to me wasn't healed by their suspension. People softened their distance into a different weapon. Whispers and stares. They no longer rallied to protect me. They avoided me, like a contagion. Gossip mutated into accusation. You ruined everything. You betrayed your family. If you cared, you would have admitted it. The words followed me in the hallways, in the break room, even in the quiet of the smoking alcove. They wanted me to fold, to swallow the truth and hand them their tidy ending. Then Liam's message cut me deeper than any blow. Naomi, don't ever speak to me again. I was wrong about you. I thought you were good. But you're nothing. Goodbye. The simplicity of it, the way one line could erase years of a shared past, left my hands shaking. But I had been given a second life. I would not let a text write the end of me. I blocked Liam. I blocked Chris. I shut doors and turned down calls. I rented a room above a bakery and filled its small drawers with plans instead of tears. Solitude became strategy. Amanda's indictment was official, charged with Cody's murder. But charging someone is not the same as truth. People still wanted answers that fit their pain. Outside the station, voices grew desperate, raw. You killed my son, they screamed. Naomi, you should be the one to die, someone spat. Watch this hospital, they'll kill again, others warned. Their anger was jagged, sometimes righteous, sometimes dangerously unmoored. It wasn't always about money. It was about a life erased. I heard a rumor that landed like a hard stone. Cody's mother was expecting another child. That fact changed the picture. It didn't make them greedy. It made their loss more complicated. A mother who'd lost one baby and carried another inside her would be whole with fear and idea of a future stolen. The talk of compensation, the number people muttered, the threats. They smelled less like greed and more like a family trying to pin value to what could never be repurchased. I thought of the nights Cody studied, of his mother sewing late into the night, of his father's stiff kindness. Their anger had teeth, but it also had a hollow place that wanted a name to hang its grief on. Amanda's two-faced performance gave it one. Back at the hospital, I worked methodically. Being reborn had taught me the cruel mathematics of small things. A purchase order here, an unlocked cabinet there, a delivery manifest swapped in the blue light of night. I started with the IV lot numbers and procurement logs. Amanda had to know the medicine's effects to weaponize it. That implied access and forethought. Someone had authorized the pull from inventory. Someone had signed the slip. Someone had the keys. In the supply room, I found the box Cody's bag came from. Its lot number matched a shipment that arrived the night before his death. A single handwritten note on the procurement slip, a scrawl I recognized, authorized an emergency pull. The scrawl matched other handwriting I'd seen. Not Amanda's neat looped letters, but Chris's impatient slanted ticks. Details stacked into a leaning tower. Delivery dates. Logged entries of who entered the supply closet. A junior nurse's careless badge swipe leaving a trace in the database. I copied every photograph, saved every file to a hidden drive, and cataloged each witness memory I could find. The porter who walked rounds at 2 a.m. and remembered seeing a woman in tan loafers near the supply corridor. The cafe cashier who remembered a man in a supplier's jacket buying water that afternoon. A maintenance log noting the security cameras were down for brief maintenance the same night. I kept my head low and my list long. The more I poked, the more sloppy things revealed themselves. People who thought they'd covered tracks had left human traces. A signature here, a hurried initial there. Rebirth had given me time and the stubbornness to use it. Rumors continued to swirl. Some folks whispered that the parents demanded a large compensation. The truth, as I knew it, was harder to parcel. They wanted accountability, and some way to hold what had been taken. Their threat to make Amanda pay, their talk of jail if the courts failed them, it was raw, human desperation, not calculated greed. I found Mr. Evans in his office and slid the procurement copy across his desk. He let out one long breath and finally said, "This is enough to open a door. We can present it to the prosecutor. but we move carefully. If Chris planted prints before, he'll know how to cover his tracks. Then we close every gap, I said. He nodded. And Naomi, be ready. Exposing a scheme like this will not make you popular. It'll make you dangerous. I'd already felt that. Danger was the new air I breathed. It did not frighten me as much as it used to. I remembered hands on my throat, the last light slipping out of me, the taste of dust and iron. That memory was a tool now, not a tomb. Word spread that evidence had been found. The family's fury cooled to a focused determination. They still wept, still demanded the truth, but now they did it with a center. The prosecutor called for sealed interviews. Amanda's bail hearing looked grim. Chris and Liam's suspension turned into formal inquiries. And yet people kept their distance. Friends I had leaned on became pages in my history. Loyalty, I learned, had limits. One evening, as I sat on my narrow bed with the smell of fresh bread drifting up from the bakery below, I pressed my palm over the small scar at my knuckle, the mark Amanda had once made when she'd tried to scramble for sympathy. It hurt less than the memory. Pain had become a marker, a map. I would not let them write my end twice. I was reborn to choose, so I waited, patient. I let Mr. Evans prod and leak what needed to leak. I let Maureen and her magnifying glass reveal the forgery of the fingerprint. I kept quiet while people shouted and while the hospital staged its press statements. The truth is a slow thing. It needs room to breathe. At night, when the city quieted and my hands grew tired from photocopying and note-taking, I imagined the moment they would sit across from me in court. Amanda with her practiced sobs, Chris with his neat collars, Liam with his tired face. I imagined the prosecutor laying out the procurement slip, the lot numbers, the prints that showed duplication. I imagined the look on their faces when the story they'd built out of convenience and fear finally collapsed. I also imagined walking out of the courthouse and not turning back. Awakened meant I remembered the taste of my own fear, and how, in my last life, it had been my undoing. That memory didn't make me hard. It made me careful. It taught me that people who hurt you aren't always monsters. Sometimes they're scared. Sometimes they're broken. And that understanding that difference was the only way to stay alive and still hold on to whatever humanity I had left. I spent the next week like an investigator in a cheap trench coat, watching, listening, collecting. I didn't trust everyone's faces anymore. Not Chris's practiced concern, not Liam's clinical distance, and not Amanda's thin tears. But I also learned to watch what fear did to them. Fear leaves fingerprints almost as plainly as guilt. Small things betray liars. I started there. The supply closet was my first target. The junior nurse who stocked shelves every Thursday moved fast and thoughtless. He left a cabinet ajar for 2 minutes. That was the opening I needed. I slipped in, breathed the dry cardboard and dust, and photographed the lot number on the glucose box with a burner phone. The number fit into a pattern I'd spent sleepless nights learning. Recalls, side effect memos, quiet complaints buried in hospital forums no one read. I sent the lot number to Mr. Evans with a single line. Who supplied this lot? He answered at dawn. Local distributor. Ask procurement. I can subpoena if needed. Quiet, competent help. I stored the reply like a small blessing. Fingerprints were next. If someone had forged my prints before, the method mattered. I found Maureen, an older tech who analyzed prints at a small independent lab, the kind of person who smelled permanently of lemon and proofreading. I'd covered her shift once. She owed me. She agreed to rerun the analysis quietly and met me at a cafe by the river with printed enlargements and a tired, sympathetic frown. They layered these, she said, fingers steady. 2 lifts stitched together, seams smoothed. Whoever did this knew how to access archival prints. Her eyes were kind, but there was a hard edge in them too. You sure you want to go that far? Yes, I said, because they almost buried me. She worked under a lamplight, magnifier between us. Small duplicated loops showed where the forger had copied a segment, and pasted it over a damaged ridge pattern. Clumsy, as if a person had practiced the trick, but never fully learned the craft. It felt less like genius and more like desperation. That mattered. While Maureen dug through images, I dug through records. Procurement lives in dusty corners of hospital intranets, in scanned memos and tired signatures. My old badge, inactive but with a footprint in the system, let me log in from the break room computer no one locked at night. There it was. Purchase orders, delivery manifests, a scanned memo with a single handwritten note. Allocate sample from lot B2104, emergency use. The scrawl matched Chris's impatient ticks on a file I'd once seen on his desk. My hands shook when I copied that image. Proof and suspicion are separated by a thin, tremulous line. I drew a map. Lot numbers, procurement memos, delivery windows, and the names of people with keys to supply closets. I cross-checked the timeline the second autopsy and Professor Halverson had given us. Everything fit too neatly. The shipment with Cody's bag arrived 2 nights before he died. An emergency pull was authorized. Amanda had been seen in the corridor near supply the same hour. I stored the files on a flash drive labeled "Not for Print" and hid it in the bottom drawer of the bakery where I rented a room above. The smell of bread in the morning steadied me. Small comforts kept me human. I needed witnesses. The hospital is full of people who notice the little things others miss. I found the night porter who finished rounds at 2 a.m. He remembered a woman in scrubs near the corridor that night and described her shoes, black flats, while Amanda wore tan loafers. The cashier at the cafe recalled a man in a supplier's jacket buying water the afternoon before Cody's death. The jacket's logo stuck in his memory because his cousin sold similar clothes at the market. Little human particulars add up. Everything I collected was modest. Receipts, a delivery manifest, a scrub print in dust, a faint scent of smoke in the cafe. I copied them, time-stamped them on my phone, and sent them to Mr. Evans with one instruction. Hold. Use only when the prosecutor shows their hand. Then, because being awakened had taught me to be brave in small doses, I staged a little theater. One morning, I walked into the hospital in plain clothes and sat on the waiting bench like someone trying to be unseen. Amanda was transferred under guard that day. She glared at me across the pavement like a wounded animal. When our eyes met, she flinched, a small, involuntary motion. People who hide guilt always betray themselves in the smallest of gestures. I let it happen. I let myself believe that the world was finally paying attention. That evening, Liam cornered me near the supply office, voice low and sharp. "Cut it out," he said. "Stop playing games." "Am I?" I asked. "You look like someone standing over a ledger he doesn't want anybody to read." He laughed brittle. "You're paranoid." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'm the only one who remembers the end." I could feel the memory of my last breath like a blade sheathed at my ribs. I didn't brandish it. Not yet. He left with his jaw clenched, the map tightened. Worry breeds mistakes. Good. My last move that week was a private visit to Cody's father. The man had been hollowed by grief. The lines around his mouth looked older, and he watched me like someone waiting for a verdict. I handed him a printout. Not the forged fingerprint, but the invoices and delivery manifest with Chris's handwriting. He read it, and a short, humorless laugh escaped him. "You think I killed my own son for money?" he asked. "No," I said, "but I think someone arranged the scene so you'd see compensation as the only answer. Don't let them buy your silence." He slammed the table, the sound hollow. "You'll have to prove it." "I will," I promised. "But don't let anger make you destroy evidence. Wait. Let the law take care of the rest." He studied me like I'd offered bread to a wolf, then sighed and agreed. "All right," he said at last. "But if this goes wrong—" "It won't," I said. I believed it because I had to. By the week's end, I had a thick folder of inconvenient truths. I hadn't shown it to anyone outside my circle. The moment you expose everything, you give your enemies room to counter. I kept it close. A slow burn plan. Being awakened had taught me how a story can be murdered and then presented as history. This time, I was rewriting. That night, I dreamed the old dream with small differences. When I pushed back at the station, someone took a photo of Amanda's expression, the exact moment she mouthed something into a phone. And later, that same phone pinged a message to Chris. I woke with the taste of victory on my tongue, or ruin. Either way, it wouldn't be the same ending. When Mr. Evans finally arranged a closed-door meeting with the prosecutor, it was on my terms. Him, me, the prosecutor, and proof that couldn't be ignored. I walked in steady, the memory of death tucked into my chest like a quiet tool. "Ms. Angel," the prosecutor said, extending a hand, "we'll review everything." I glanced at the hand and thought of the ones that had pushed me to my death. I set the folder on the table and opened it. They could arrest Amanda and call it justice. They could close the file and let their tidy world resume. Or they could follow the trail, the procurement memo, the doctored prints, the delivery witness, and watch the tidy story crumble. I hoped, with a tenderness I didn't yet trust, that they would choose the truth. Because understanding guided my moves now. I wasn't out for blind revenge. I wanted accountability. I wanted the parents to have a real answer, not a scapegoat. I wanted myself to be able to walk out of this with my name whole and my choices intact. Being awakened had not made me merciful. It has made me capable of mercy, and that, I realized, might be the most dangerous weapon of all. The courtroom was silent except for the scratch of pens and the low hum of the ceiling fan. I stood there, not as the broken nurse they once dragged through mud, but as the woman who had clawed her way back from death itself. Mr. Evans laid the folder before the judge. Each page fell like a hammer. The procurement memo in Chris's handwriting, the fingerprint analysis proving forgery, the witness who identified Amanda's shoes in the supply corridor, Professor Halvorson's expert report exposing the false autopsy. Every lie that once drowned me was now unraveling. Amanda broke first. Her voice snapped like glass under weight. "It wasn't me!" she shrieked, eyes wide, frantic. "Chris made me do it. He said if I didn't switch the IV bag, Cody's family would lose everything. The hospital would bury them, their compensation gone. I only followed orders." She clutched at the air, begging for someone, anyone, to believe her. Her voice was pleading, high-pitched, pathetic, the perfect performance she had perfected over the years. But the prosecutor was ready. He slammed a stamped memo on the lectern. "This is internal correspondence between the hospital and the family's lawyers. The settlement was already secured. Cody's family would not have lost everything. Ms. Wright's story is false, a lie to cover her guilt." Amanda's painted mask cracked. The tears dried. What spilled next wasn't performance. It was panic. "He told me. He said if I helped, I'd be promoted, protected." Her words came out ragged, desperate. The courtroom gasped as one, the sound sharp and collective, like a wave of shock crashing against the walls. Even the judge's pen paused mid-note. Whispers hissed through the benches, the weight of her confession rippling like fire through dry grass. Chris finally moved, but too late. The prosecutor slammed down the page that sealed his fate, the procurement slip, scrawled in his handwriting. "You authorized the contaminated lot, you placed the poisoned IV bag in circulation, and you knew exactly why." Gasps spread like fire through the gallery. The prosecutor's voice sharpened to a blade. Cody Williams was not just a child lying in that hospital bed. He was a patient who should have walked out alive. But Cody also carried something dangerous: knowledge. He had spoken about the mistakes he overheard, about how his treatment was mishandled, and how staff tried to cover it up. His words reached the wrong ears. If those truths had come to light, Christopher Angel's reputation and this hospital's money would have been destroyed. So they silenced him. A child's life was traded for their careers and their greed. The room erupted in murmurs, some horrified, some furious. Cody wasn't a random victim. He was silenced. Amanda screamed, pointing at Chris. "You promised me. You said I'd be safe if I helped. You said—" Chris sat frozen, pale as chalk. His power, his calm, his control, gone. And Liam? He tried to cling to the edges. I only followed procedure, he whispered, voice cracking. But Maureen's report cut him down. The fingerprints were forged under his supervision. His procedure was nothing more than complicity. The judge's gavel thundered like judgment itself. Amanda Wright, Christopher Angel, Liam Carter, you are hereby charged with conspiracy, falsifying evidence, and manslaughter. Bail denied. Custody immediately. The guards moved. Amanda shrieked, thrashing, clawing at Chris's sleeve. Liam hung his head, hollow. Chris didn't fight. He was too destroyed by the truth. And me? I didn't move. I only remembered the last time. Their laughter when I begged for mercy. Their silence as I bled. The moment they buried me with their lies. Not this time. This time it was them being dragged away. Amanda's eyes found mine as the guards pulled her. Her face twisted, her voice breaking into a scream that rattled the courtroom walls. It was supposed to be you, Naomi. You were the one who was supposed to die. Her words echoed, venomous and raw, but they no longer cut me. I met her glare, steady, calm. I already did, I said, and I came back to finish this. She froze, silenced by her own fear, her body dragged out like a defeated animal. For the first time, Cody's parents weren't staring at me with hate. They looked at Amanda, Chris, and Liam, the people they'd defended, the people who had stolen their son's life and truth. Their grief remained, but now it was aimed at the guilty. Mr. Evans placed a hand on my shoulder when the room emptied. His voice was low, certain. You did it. You've been vindicated. Outside, the sun broke across my face. Warm, alive, blinding in a way it hadn't been the day I died. The protesters who once screamed for my blood were gone. Only the wind, the traffic, the sound of a world moving forward. This wasn't just vengeance. It was something greater, a reclamation. Last time they buried me, this time I buried them. And for the first time since waking in this second chance at life, I finally felt free.